Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Now, the last 6 months have been a little bit slow in terms of innovation and things to show you on the channel. That was until now. Take a look at these. A warm welcome back to the channel, guys. Do not forget to subscribe. So, introducing the HLR15 and 21 from Italian power tool and polishing experts, you'd probably say, Rupes. Now, the history of the dual action polisher. So we know, if you've watched the channel, that the dual action polisher is the polisher of choice for 99%, don't quote me on that percentage, of professional detailers. Why? Because this rotation of the polishing plate or buffer pad is not driven, it's the orbit of the axle that's driven. So the spin of the plate is actually generated from the orbit of the main axle. The plate is mounted on a free spinning bearing that is offset from the center of the axle. So in this particular machine, the HLR15, that offset is 15 millimeters. In the HLR21, that offset is even further, not quite that far, 21 millimeters, giving it a more aggressive orbit. Now, historically, if we wind back the clock to whenever dual action polishers started to become used to polish cars, they were an 8 millimeter offset, which is a very small throw. The larger the offset, the slightly more aggressive the machine comes, because you get that more sweeping arc, which makes them more suitable for heavier paint correction. So you're going to be able to cut with the long throw machines a little bit quicker than you might your entry level or smaller throw DAs. That is the history of the dual action polisher. Now, historically, Rupes have always had an interest in these long throw or larger orbit dual action polishers in their BigFoot range. In particular, the LHR15, their corded long throw machine polisher, has been a market leader for many years, and they're on their Mark III or third iteration of the tool. This, I believe, is a big step forward for Rupes in a direction where I think most power tools are going, and that is cordless operation. Why is cordless operation an advantage if you're detailing cars? Well, for me, it's the one thing is you're not tripping over the power cord. You're not having to put the power cord on your shoulder, take it off every time when you're polishing. You're not having to tread on the power cord and accidentally yank the machine and kind of keep pulling on the cable. You're not having to coil the power cord up when you finish operating the machine every single time. You're not having to clean the power cord, which gets covered in grit and polish. You're not having to move the power cord from power point, from one plug socket to another in the workshop. So these can lend themselves better to people that are on the go. Now, historically as well, the problem with powered technology would be the battery life. But the technology has increased so much so now that critically, if you have two of these 18 volt, 5 amp lithium ion batteries, you can run your tool continuously. So while you're running this particular battery here, your other one could be on charge and you don't have any downtime. So we're at that phase now where I think the industry is ripe for cordless polishers. And obviously there's other advantages of cordless where you might not have power supplies. Mobile guys that want to be out and about in remote areas and they don't have generators and all that sort of stuff. So, having the ability to just kind of pick up your polisher, take it to the vehicle and polish is great. So that's the main advantage. What's historically is the disadvantage? Well, when you have power on tap, mains power on tap, you might find that you can run these machines, as long as you like. You haven't got to worry about managing the batteries. But as I've said, that battery management is becoming easier and more efficient as time goes by. Let's move on to the specific specs of these machines. Now I want to run quickly through the specs, guys. Now the HLR15, which is the machine that most people are going to be opting for, with the more standard long throw of 15mm, comes with a 125mm backing plate. Again, that tends to be a detailing standard with the 5-inch standard pads. The HLR21 with the longer 21mm offset comes as standard with the 6-inch plate, okay, which is a larger pad and a larger throw. So perhaps you could argue that the HLR21 is more suitable for larger vehicles with bigger surfaces that you want to polish rapidly, but the disadvantage of the longer throw is slightly less accuracy when you get to the edge. So like I say, with the difference in throw sizes, the majority of detailers that are polishing cars most of the time may opt for the 15mm throw. Not all will though, guys, so it's personal preference does come into this. Now this machine, the HLR15, weighs 750 kilograms without the battery, compared to the HLR21, which weighs 1950 kilograms without the batteries. Both of them operate on these 15-volt 5-amp lithium batteries. Next up, operating speeds, guys. The HLR15 has a minimum speed of 3,000 OPMs and a maximum speed of 5,200 OPMs, or orbits per minute. And you can control and vary that speed with the big dial on the front. That's very easy and wide to access. So that's a Rupes feature. The trigger that comes with the machine is also variable, so you can control the speed on the trigger. Most times though, when you're operating the machine, you'll go up to its full setting speed and lock the trigger on and then operate it, so you don't have to worry so much. But there are certain circumstances where you might want to use that variable speed trigger. The HLR21 has a minimum speed of 3,000 OPM and a maximum speed of 4,200 OPM. That's probably to do with the dynamics of the machine. With the longer throw, if the orbits per minute get too high, then the machine's probably going to have too much vibration and not be usable. I'm guessing on that though. But yeah, those are the speed ranges. Now, how long can you operate these machines for, guys? Well, on a full charge, Rupes advise you can get 30 to 40 minutes continual run time. Obviously, there's going to be some variance depending on how you're polishing and the load you put on the batteries and the pressure and the speeds and all that sort of stuff. But the main thing is, you're not going to be running the tool continuously for those 40 minutes. You're going to be stopping and, you know, cleaning the pad, applying more polish, moving on to the next section. So in reality, you can always polish because the charge times for these batteries are 50 to 55 minutes. So that means you can round robin the tools all day long without downtime. Very, very important. So that's the basic specs of both of these machines. So beyond the raw specs, guys, what are the reason for opting for Rupes power tools over potentially cheaper offerings on the market? Well, the first thing is Rupes make this polisher in their in-house, in their factory in Rupes, and they make every single component, as far as I know, even down to winding the motors themselves, the electric motors in them. So the build quality on them is very, very good. You also get pieces of innovation on Rupes tools that you don't see on other tools, and that often tries to get copied. For example, I've never seen polishers with these power strips, you know, and that power strip flashes slowly when you're about to run out of power, and it flashes quickly if you're overloading the machine. Things like that are quite cool, and you're not going to miss it. So it's just a nice little touch. The ergonomics of this machine are absolutely fantastic. The fact that the arm is just bent down, so, you know, the bit that you grip, so slightly less of an angle, so you're less at right angles when you're holding the machine. So you've got more tendency to actually hold the machine as it's intended on the trigger. There is also rubberized parts to the battery, because the battery is the heavy part of the machine as well. And if the machine slips out your hand and makes contact with the panel, it's good to have that little bit of reassurance that there's some rubberized components there that are less likely to scratch the paint that you're polishing. I've not seen that before. Beyond this, I mean, the use of this carbon fibre kind of finish and this special polyfibre material to make the tool lighter. This is a very, very light polisher, especially for a battery operated thing, which is very important for fatigue because you're holding this tool for long periods of time during the day. I've also never seen a backing plate like this that is this thin, but the plate is also really, really sturdy. So I'm not sure what material that's made of, but whatever it is strong. And the interface between the plate and the shroud of the machine seems perfect. Sometimes on the cheaper tools, you can see a lot of play in those plates, whereas this spins completely true to the backing plate, to the shroud, which is fantastic. You've got also the standard features with the integrated bail now. Very rare do you see polishers with, especially for detailing, with all the handles on them, because you typically don't need them. They get in the way and they stop you accessing the areas. So you hold this tool on the bail and on the grip back here. It's also got all the cooling vents on the side where it blows the air out, and it will maintain the temperature of the machine. I also really love the Rupes triggers, guys. They're big and beefy, and there's good scope on them to run the machine at a slower speed, a little bit faster, a little bit faster, a little bit faster, all the way up to top whack. With this trigger as well, you cannot accidentally turn the machine on. So if you throw the machine in your kit bag quickly, you're in a rush, it doesn't accidentally fire up and cause all sorts of carnage. You know, you need that. But also the trigger lock, there isn't two different ones on each side of the tool. It's the same trigger lock to keep the machine running when you've powered it up. And that just feels really nice and intuitive. And to get it off, you just have to squeeze. You just squeeze the trigger when you're operating it. So it's really nice and intuitive trigger lock system. And when you're using that all the time, it's important that the trigger mechanism is nice and easy and intuitive to use. You also have that battery power indicator there if you want to know specifically how much charge you've got. One other key feature with this Rupes machine is that it maintains enough power to run the machine at 5,160, which is virtually top whack for its whole battery run cycle. So in other words, as the battery gets lower on charge, you're still going to be able to run the machine at its full capability. I've used this till it's gone dead, and about 20 seconds before the machine ran out, I got a little indication that the battery was about to go. You can just feel it, and then it goes, and then you take this one out, put it on charge, get the other one, slot it in, and away you go. So there's very little practical battery management that you've got to do. In fact, you just wait for it to run out of power and switch it. It's that simple. John, what are your thoughts on using this polisher? Well, there's a few things that are really important for me with dual action polishers. So the benefit of them is you don't get pulled around as much because the main movement isn't driven. But historically, the disadvantage can be the extra vibration that comes. A rotary doesn't have to contend with an offset orbit, so it's smoother. But the vibration on this particular dual action polisher is superb. That's important. I'll just turn that off so you can hear me. That's really important because when these machines, the internals aren't as good, they're not as well weighted, and you get more vibration, that can sometimes really make your hands go numb after polishing, you know, continually with them for a few hours. So that's going to make a big difference. It's one of the smoothest polishers I think I've used so far. The noise levels on it as well are low, which is good. You should always wear ear defenders if you're polishing for a long time, but that's something that often isn't done. But it's very quiet compared to other polishers. The cool thing is as well, guys, with the Rupes system, especially wool pads, they're yellow wool and they're blue, extra coarse wool, you can do all of the cutting you need for those tough, hard German paints that have got deep swirls where you need to cut very, very quickly. And that's important as well. But beyond that, the ergonomics of the tool are fantastic. The weight of the tool is fantastic. It doesn't seem prone to stalling out. And you can even see when you kind of spin the plate, it spins really freely on the machine. The giant sized dial is nice on the thumb and it's positioned in exactly the right place. They've even got these rubberized feet stands on there. So when you've finished using the tool, you can set it down, you know, on the bench. I think Rupes have absolutely knocked this one out of the park. This is probably the best free spinning cordless polisher I've ever got my hands on, and I will be looking to get one for myself as well once I fix my blown Porsche engine on my car. If you follow the channel, this is probably second or third on my shopping list, and I will get one. I'm so impressed. I will go for the 15mm offset throw. Beyond everything I've just said, the tool looks amazing as well, which is kind of important. If you're going to do detailing properly, you can either play at detailing or you can go in and do it seriously. And part of doing it seriously is getting the right tools for the job. As I said before, Rupes don't just give you the right tools, they give you the best tools out there. And not just the tools, the overall system. So they make the polishing process a little bit easier to understand if you're new. You get their heavy cutting compounds, their mid-range polishes, their finishing polishes, they're all-in-one products, and you can make them up to the color-coded pad of choice, blue to blue, blue coarse pad for blue coarse compound, yellow medium pad for yellow medium compound, white for finishing, etc. You can play around with them, but you get that basic pairing when you start. They also have pads in every single size, so their main big polishers, their 3-inch polishers, all the way down to their nano polishers. So if you go with Rupes, you get everything you need to be able to do everything on cars. Now, at the moment I shoot this video, these tools are available in what's called a BAS kit, a BAS kit. Those kits cost £750. With that, you get the polisher, you get a charge station, which you can slot 2 batteries in. You get 2 batteries. I believe you get 8 different pads varying from coarse wool all the way through to kind of softer foam pads. So a variety of pads. You get the heavy cutting coarse compound and the DA fine compound. So you get a polishing cloth as well, and some instructions, Allen keys, everything you need. So you buy those kits and you're actually ready to go and use the tool and start polishing on a car. Later on, after I shot this video, there'll be tool-only versions of this coming out where the prices will be a little bit cheaper because you won't be paying for all those extra accessories as well. So here's the thing with these tools, guys. Not everyone on the face of the planet is going to be able to afford a Rupes tool, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't aspire to having one, especially if you're a professional detailer or a guy at home who's very serious about his detailing and wants to use the best. Just because you can't afford them doesn't mean you shouldn't aspire to getting them. A bit like owning a Ferrari. You might not be able to afford one now, but that doesn't stop you aspiring to it. Guys, I've loved this video. Check these tools out. I think they're going to become very, very popular. They're going to become part of the mainstream. And the cool thing is, I think there's loads more stuff coming from Rupes in terms of innovation going forward and more cordless offerings. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to Rupes for partnering up with the channel in this video. Very, very impressive tool. Take care, and I'll see you soon on the Forensics Detailing channel.
Holding on to what I knew, but the moment's gone. Where was I when you